Hi everybody, welcome to my complete new beginner's guide to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 multiplayer. So the idea with this video, and it's going to be a long one, is that if you're new to Call of Duty maybe this year, or maybe you're really rusty and you just want to understand what's going on and how you can get better at this amazing game, then this video is going to be for you. Now hopefully I'll remember in the description below this video to put timestamps in so that you can go through and you can jump to the bits you want to get to if you already know the basics. But we're going to cover things like the settings that you could be using, your hardware, the different game modes, the different loadouts, the different weapons you can take in. We're going to look at score streaks. We're going to look at how you can get into the map by yourself, and then we're going to look at some basic movement ideas to improve your tactics. Then we're going to look at how you can create training drills against bots so that you can get better that way. And then we're going to look at like a live match where we dive in, and I'm going to kind of talk you through what I'm thinking as we go along. So the first thing I just really want to cover quickly is the fact that although this is a guide to multiplayer, I highly recommend you do play through the campaign first, or at least a chunk of it, to get used to the basic movement and the basic buttons that you have to use to shoot and jump and all that sort of stuff. And also I recommend you play Zombies as well, because if you play Zombies Liberty Falls this year, it's actually really easy, and I'll put a link in the description below this video to my basic introduction to zombies, because it's also a great way to level up your weapons and your gear. So let's go and have a look at some settings to get you started. So if we go into multiplayer, I just want to also mention that if you want to get good at Call of Duty multiplayer, although you can just play on a TV using the speakers or on your PC using the speakers, highly recommend you plug a headset in, because the 3D information you'll get from having a nice set of headphones on will help you so many times. So let's jump into the settings. So on Xbox you press the little button with the three lines. Not quite sure it is on PlayStation or PC, but if you look in the top right hand corner you kind of see that, and then we just go over to settings, and let's go down to look at the controller first. So all you want to do is just go down here, and let's start off with that sticky subject of stick sensitivity. So stick sensitivity is how fast the camera moves, or your aiming moves, as you move your sticks, or I guess your mouse as well, on PC. And lots of people get it stuck in their heads this needs to be really high. It doesn't, especially when you're starting off. You can have it really low, have it at 1, have it at 2. Mine is set at 3 at the moment, which most people go, my gosh, that's really low. But what you need to do is, I would say, pick a low number and stick with it for a good few days. Don't chase your sensitivity up and down. Don't blame your inaccuracy on your sensitivity. Generally, when you're playing, if you find that when you snap to aim down sight and you move towards a target, move your sight towards a target, if you go past the target, then your sensitivity is too high, and bring it down. If you don't get to your target in time, then your sensitivity is too low. So that's kind of the way that I think about it, and I find that I am much more accurate with a lower sensitivity and concentrate on keeping potential targets in the middle of my screen than going higher. Now when you get used to a particular sensitivity, by all means chunk it up one so you can get faster, and then stick with that sensitivity for, again, a few days, because it's all about building up that muscle memory. And the very worst thing you can do is to blame inaccuracy on stick sensitivity and then put it down one game, put it up the next game, and put it down. Honestly, that will really ruin stuff. So controller vibration, obviously turn it off. Your dead zone inputs will often depend on your controller, how old it is it a bit worn. Mine is set to 10 on my minimum, so this means that I have to move the stick a little bit before my character will start moving. You may well be able to put yours down to 5, for example, but if you do find you have stick drift, so your character starts moving around when you're not doing anything, then you'll have to kind of change that as we go along. I'm an inverted look type person. And then let's have a look at aiming assists. There we go. So aim response curve I have as linear. So what happens is as you're aiming down sight or as you're turning, you can have standard, linear or dynamic, and they may well introduce different things as well. I prefer to stay with linear because it means the speed at which you turn or the speed at which the camera moves is directly proportional to the amount you move your stick. So it's not logarithmic. There's no acceleration to that movement. However, what I would say is I think this is very personal and it depends on what you're used to. So if you're used to an accelerated aiming system, then stick with it. But lots of people prefer linear. Movement, sprint assist off. You can just copy all of these as we go through. I think these are all normal. Combat is all the same. Let's have a quick look at this one. Now, one thing you might want to change in combat advanced settings is interact and reload behavior. Now, this really comes into its own when you're playing something like Zombies, or if you go on and you play Warzone, where there are lots of devices and boxes and other things that you interact with apart from just reloading your weapon. So if you find you're in a situation maybe in multiplayer as well, but perhaps where you're playing Zombies or something like that, and you find you're going up to, say, a gobble gun machine or a box or something on the floor, and you want to pick it up, and you have to press and hold to pick something up. If you'd rather change that to tap to pick it up because it's faster, then you can come here and do that. And then you can change it so that in order to reload your gun, you have to press and hold the reload button rather than tapping it. Again, it's one of those things where if you do change it, stick with it. Now, the reason I don't mind press and hold for reload is that I played a lot of PUBG. And in PUBG, you press and hold to reload. And I think you do in Arma Reforger as well. Lots of games have that. So you can do that if that becomes an issue. Okay, let's come out of there. Graphics. Let's have a look. Quality. So, world motion blur off. Weapon motion blur off. Depth of field off. Fidelity, I have that off. This is just also that you've got a nice crisp screen. Remember, in multiplayer, it is about winning. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's about having fun. The game will look probably better with a bit of motion blur on, but you get used to it and it's fine. Now, your field of view. This is highly personal. The larger the field of view, the more likely you'll see enemies at the sides of you. But also the worst performance you will get out of your PC or your console. So this is highly personal. I'm running 90 at the moment, so it's kind of in the middle. But there's nothing wrong with going up to, say, 100, or I guess you could go up to 120 if you wanted. It becomes slightly more difficult to aim when you start changing your field of view, because the percentage of the scene in front of you gets bigger. So that movements you make more difference. However, just like with your sensitivity, if you make a change to your field of view, stick with it for several days before you change anything again, so that you get used to that slight difference. And then it depends on your playstyle. If you're playing things like Hardpoint, especially, where you really want to be able to keep an eye on like 2 doors at once, having a wide field of view can make a massive difference. I'm happy with 90 for the time being, and I'm kind of used to that. That's all the same, so we can come out of there. Audio, here we go. So what probably you'll want to do here is turn off the gameplay music. I've turned down the dialogue volume. Cinematics I've turned down. You'll want to have master game volume up at full. I turn it down because for the purposes of recording videos. You could put on enhanced headphone mode as well. I go with Treyarch Mix. Sounds is a massive part of being successful in Call of Duty multiplayer, because it allows you to hear where people are running around you. However, you can play without sound. You can play with just ordinary stereo speakers on your TV or your PC. A lot of the time I will play like that if I'm just casually. And once you get used to the game and used to looking at the mini-map, that does help you an awful lot. But especially in certain game modes like free-for-all, for example, where knowing where other players are is incredibly important, because plus they're not shooting at each other that often, can be good. Voice chat, I mean, I just turn it off. Obviously, if you're playing with mates, you might want to turn that on, but you might well be in Discord or something like that. I don't need to hear someone else's baby crying in the background or their television or something like that that's on that way. Interface, in fact, we can just lead all this. You can play around with stuff like that. Minimap shape, maybe change it to square so you get a slightly bigger minimap. You can sort of choose that. Yeah, so I would sort of go with that there. So there we go. So there's kind of the settings that we want to go through. And I think next off, we'll look at the weapons. So weapons are one of the funnest parts of Call of Duty. The fact that you can have fun playing with lots of different types of guns. And again, don't get too obsessed with having like the meta weapons, you know, the best ones. There's lots of YouTubers out there who will make videos, rightfully so, about, you know, this at the moment, this is the best weapon to use for this particular game mode and things like that. But there's a lot of fun to be had playing with different weapons, with different playstyles, and just having that different experience. However, I would say once you get to, I think it's level 4 or level 5, when you can open up custom loadouts. So up until that point, you'll have to use the default ones that come with the game when you jump in, and you won't have a choice. And then you'll unlock it, and you'll have a choice, and then you'll be able to start working on your own weapons. So the way that it works is that you have a choice of different weapons that you can use, and that choice gets bigger as you play the game. So as you progress through the game, for example, with these assault rifles, we start off with the XM4, then we have the AK, then the AIMS 85, etc. And you unlock lots of different assault rifles, submachine guns, shotguns, light machine guns, marksman rifles, and sniper rifles. So you unlock them as you play. And then for each gun, so if we, for example, look at the XM4, let's go back a bit, let's go into the gunsmith. And as you play with that particular gun, you unlock attachments for that particular gun. So you can have different things. And you can have up to 5 attachments in ordinary multiplayer. I think it's 8 in zombies mode. However, you will also unlock attachments for other guns as you're using them. So sometimes it can be a bit confusing when you go into the various attachments. Like, why is it showing you all these other different things? But don't worry too much about that. The XM4, basically, a Car 15, it's kind of a fully automatic M16, that sort of progression of weapon. It's really good. It's really accurate. And the things you may want to put on it as you're going along, I mean, I've put the game twist barrel on it for improved performance at mid to long range. Again, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, you can kind of see what it's adding to. I think a vertical foregrip's always good to improve recoil control. Extended mag, because I'm incredibly inaccurate and I need more bullets to kill people. Quick draw grip, so I can just bring it out faster, and a heavy stock to make it more accurate. And I'm happy with the iron sights of this particular gun. We can left click in and we can go to the firing range, and we can have a practice. You know, we can see whether, you know, whether it works for us or not. Let's come out of the firing range. So you can do any changes like that. So I would say, you know, start with the XM4, have some fun with the XM4, and then maybe change it up a bit. You know, try the AK, try a submachine gun, you know, that sort of thing. You launch it, your secondary. You could go with a pistol. Highly recommend a launcher though. Start off with the Sigma, the 2B, the one you get, because this is the one when you hear the call, enemy UAV or enemy counter UAV or an enemy attack helicopter comes in, you can aim this at the sky. It will lock on, excuse me, and then you can shoot down enemy score streaks and get yourself some nice points that way. Knife, it could be a knife, and then you kind of unlock the baseball bat, you know. And then we move on to things like our tactical, lethals, and field upgrades. Again, these unlock as you play the game. I'm currently at level 55. I'm about to prestige and take it back to level 1, probably. So I've unlocked everything. And which ones we use will depend on the game mode you're playing and the style of the game you want to play. So I tend to run with smoke as my tactical because I like playing a lot of hardpoint and domination. And smoke is really good for covering the hard point or covering the point on domination, the objective we have to capture, so that enemies can't shoot you from a way away and protect you from snipers. Then I can jump onto the hard point, jump onto the domination objective and capture it relatively safely. So that's what I kind of do. If I was running a little bit more aggressively and wanted to run around shooting and killing lots of other players, I would probably run with flashbangs or concussions or a stim shot. So the flashbang or the concussion, you can run towards a room, throw a flashbang in there or a concussion, it stuns the enemies, you rush in and you shoot them. The stim shot is really good because this enables you to, as you take damage, to give yourself a stim and it recovers health. So you can play with that. Lethal, at the moment I've got the Semtex. The frag grenade is good. The frag grenade's good for bouncing around runes. Semtex is cool because it goes where you want it to go, and then it sticks to things, which is good. Impact grenade is quite fun actually as well, because you throw that, and when it hits anything, it will then explode. But you can play with them. The drill charge is really fun to use if you're playing game modes where people keep going inside buildings and camping. You can throw that against a wall and it will make its way through. And the combat axe is a reusable, where you can just lob it at people, instant kill, then pick it up afterwards. But for me, it tends to be Semtex or frag. Field upgrade, again, these unlock as you're going along. Trophy system, what this does, this shoots down incoming grenades or rockets and things like that. So again, if you're playing an objective mode like domination or hardpoint, the beauty with this is when you take the objective, you throw this down, and then as people are throwing grenades to try and kill you, this thing will intercept you and take them down. Again, if you're playing a objective based mode, maybe you're playing like free for all, or you're playing team deathmatch, something like the spring mine can be really good. The scrambler can be really good. Warcry can be good because it rallies your team. Tactical insertion, if you're a sniper, this can be good because you can put this down somewhere. It means you'll spawn back there. So if you have a particular favourite bit of a map you want to get into, that can be good as well. And then morphine ejector, and we've got some other things as well. But I'm going to be recommending you play objective-based game modes, and so I think the trophy system is very good indeed. Now we come on to perks. Now the perks are buffs for your character, so they make your character stronger in certain ways. And what they've done this year is they are color-coded. And so if you use 3 of the same color-coded perks, you get a speciality, like an extra free perk as well, which is quite nice. Now, I'm running, because again it's objective-based game modes, I run Flak Jacket because that stops me from getting damage from incoming grenades. I run Dispatcher because that means I earn things like UAVs and counter UAVs faster, which is good when you're on an objective or trying to capture an objective. The fact that you and your teammates know where enemies are, that can be very good. Quartermaster gives me recharges my equipment over time, so I get my grenades back, which can be handy with smokes. And then we've got Strategist, is the speciality that using 3 of the green perks gives me, which means that I get a score bonus for objectives. Funnily enough, that could be capturing a hard point, it can be capturing domination or defending it, and killing players in kill confirmed as well, which is quite good. And I can see equipment as well, so I can see things like mines, and I get my field upgrades faster as well, so my trophy system is feeding in faster. So if I do manage to stay alive, it means that I can chuck my trophy system in. And then currently I'm running the Tactical Expert wild card, which means that I can spawn in with 2 extra tacticals. Now, so what are you going to run with, I guess, is the question. Now, I would say, again, don't get too obsessed with having to have all of the 3 to get your speciality. If you want to mix things up, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So things like Gung Ho can be really good if you're being aggressive, because you can reload faster when you're running around, which can be very important. Things like do we have Ghost? Ghost is really important. So you're not going to be on the UAV when you're moving around. Again, that can be very, very useful as well. Tracker, you can see people's footsteps. Bruiser, melee kills. Replenish health if you're running around with a knife. Double time, you can sprint for longer. Bankroll, you start off with a bonus towards your score streaks. Cold-blooded, you're not seen by AI targeting, so when those helicopters come over, you're not going to get shot with them, or the turrets, although I have to say they're not as much of a threat in this particular one. Gearhead, 2 field upgrade charges and an increased charge rate, so that could be good for, say, you were using like the mines or something like that as you're running around in team deathmatch. So don't get obsessed by them. They're fun. And again, with your wild card, you could equip things like Gunfighter, so you can have 3 extra attachments. Not particularly. Overkill is a good one. So an overkill means you could have 2 primary weapons. So you could have like a shotgun and a sniper rifle, worth playing around with. Danger close and extra lethal, that could be nice as well. Perk greed, so you can have an extra perk that way. As I say, don't get too obsessed by them, because they do improve your character, but let's say they give you an extra 10%. And what's important, I really think, in Call of Duty is not getting obsessed and sticking with the same thing all the time. Just as I recommend you changing it up and run with a submachine gun for a while, run with a shotgun for a while. Do that with your perks. Mix them up a bit, because you may well find, actually, all of a sudden, say you're constantly dying when you reload. Okay, that's a classic mistake beginners make. So they're running around, they shoot someone or they shoot their gun and they reload immediately, and then they get shot by someone else coming around the corner. Well, maybe what you should then do is run something like, do we have like fast hands? So swap weapons faster and extend fuse when throwing back grenades, so that you can swap to your secondary weapon quicker. All this sort of thing, and you'll discover that and go, actually, I found that gung ho is really good for me, and things like that. So mix them up and try them out. Score streaks, another massively fun bit of Call of Duty. When you're a beginner, it can be difficult to earn them because you don't stay alive fast enough. So the way that it can work is, as you're playing and you're killing people or you're capturing objectives and things like that, you then earn points, and those points can go towards getting a UAV. So on the minimap, you can see where enemies are. Counter UAV, which means that the enemy's minimap is jammed, and things like the napalm strike. Now, normally, the ones I would recommend also, I would always say UAV and counter UAV when you unlock these through playing, because they're fairly easy to earn, and they are effective in helping you and your teammates. And then normally I would recommend something like the care package, because the beauty with the care package is that you have a random chance of getting a powerful streak in it. So you call it down with a flare, you run up to it, you unlock it, and you might get something. However, when I've been playing with the care package, I've been getting really low score streaks, like more UAVs and more counter UAVs. So your results may vary. However, I do like the napalm strike, because it's good at damaging enemies, and if you get it right on the top of an objective while the enemies are trying to capture it, you can get lots of kills, which is very, very cool indeed. And then we can practice all of this on the firing range. So there we go. That is loadout and weapons. Now let's look at the types of games you may want to play, the different types of game modes. So if we click on Find a Match, and then we click on, well, it's X to get the filter for Xbox, whatever it is on your PlayStation or your PC, you can see that what we can do is we can choose the type of matches we want to play. And there's core game modes and hardcore game modes. In hardcore, you don't get any minimap, and friendly fire is turned on so you can kill your teammates. Don't recommend playing that unless you start to know the game modes and you know the maps, because you get kicked if you kill your teammates too often. So I would stick with core to start off with. And the ones that I think are worth playing to start off with are Team Deathmatch, Domination, and Free-for-all. So we've got the classic Team Deathmatch, which most people play, where it's 6 versus 6, and you can run around and it's good fun, but there's no objective apart from killing the opposition. Domination, we have 3 flags on the map, and you get points for capturing those flags, and the team who gets the most points at the end of the match wins. So it's objective based, so that gives you a feel for that. Again, people run around like it's Team Deathmatch most of the time as well, but you can concentrate on, for example, capturing or defending objectives, which is good. And I always think free-for-all is a good option as well, because free-for-all, where it's all versus all, so it's 12, means that you really get to practice how you listen to what's going on with the game around you, and you'll end up doing lots of 1v1s, and you'll also really get good at, you can either rush around like a mad thing or practice at being stealthy. And as you learn the maps, free-for-all becomes easier. And I think free-for-all is often the overlooked game mode that is a lot of fun in Call of Duty. And with all of these game modes, what I would say is what your objective should be is, if you're playing, for example, domination, your objective is to play the objective and capture and or defend flags, because that's what gives you points. When you're playing team deathmatch or free-for-all, it's not about winning and getting the most kills. What it's about is trying to have the biggest difference between your kills and your deaths. So what you'll see in lots of when you look at the scoreboards of lots of games, when you get to the end, is you'll find people who get lots of points because they'll have run around like mad headless chickens, or chickens who know what they're doing, but they'll have got, say, maybe 30 kills, but they'll have died 28 times. So you get lots of points for that, you get lots of XP for that, because you've got 30 kills, but they've died 28 times, which means that they've only really contributed +2 to the team deathmatch score. Whereas if you can run around and you can say you only killed 12 people because you're being a bit careful, but you only died 6 times, your difference is then 6. So 12 to 6. So it's 6. So your contribution is 6. And that's really important, because that makes that gap better, and therefore you've really contributed to the chances of your team winning that particular game. And same in free-for-all as well. Don't concentrate on the fact that you've won. You know, you've got into the top 3 for free-for-all. That's kind of classed as a win. But concentrate on the fact that in this match of free-for-all, you may have only killed, say, 6 people, but you've only died 3 times. You know, that sort of thing. Or maybe you've killed 15 people, but you've only died 10 times. So think about your kill-death ratio, we would often refer it to, and don't get obsessed with having to have a massive high kill count, because it's all, for me, it's about that difference between your kills and your deaths, because that helps. And then when you're in domination or you're in hardpoint, you should completely ignore your kill-death ratio. You should not worry about it one thing, because the important thing is capturing or defending the flags or the hard points. And if that means you've got to die and you've got to die and you've got to die, then so be it, because that's the whole point of that particular game mode. So you're probably thinking by now, if you're still here, well, this is all very well, but we want to get into a match, we want to play, but hold your horses. First things first, what I want to do now is we're just going to jump into a blank map, and we're going to move around, and I'm going to kind of talk you through what I'm thinking of as I'm moving around. So if we go down to find a match, now by all means do the training course first. That's very important. Again, it gets you used to the movement. We're going to go into a private match, and we're going to create a private match. And if you look in the top right hand corner, what you've got to wait for is your name to appear, and then we can change something. Sometimes this can be a little bit difficult at busy times, right? So we've appeared. So let's change from team deathmatch to domination. So we've got the flags to see. What map should we use? Let's go to what map do I want to play on? Red Card, Protocol, Payback, Nuketown. I tell you what, so Nuketown is a specialist map, but it's good to practice on because it's so small. There we go. So let's start this. Okay, so we're not up against any bots, but Nuketown, if you play Black Ops 6, and Nuketown is available as a normally have a special playlist, dive in and play it, because although it's very, very hectic, it's a good way of learning the basics of multiplayer, because it's such an intense crucible. Okay, so let's press RB and we can choose what we want. So I'm going to choose my XM4, and then we can bring up the scoreboard with the options button, and then we can look at the map. So we can see Nuketown is definitely a classic, what we call a 3-lane Treyarch map. So you can go through the middle of the map down here, or you can go down the sides. The enemies will spawn at this end, we'll all spawn at this end. Now, as we move towards the back of the map, if all of my team move towards the back of the map, the enemies will then spawn at this end, like that. So you get something like a spawn flip, so be aware of that. So let's start off with some real basic stuff as we move off spawn. Now, there's something called right-hand advantage in most shooters, and that is almost all of the characters, I can't think of any, are all right-handed, which means that when we come up to an edge, like so, it means that if we are like this, less of our body is exposed than if we are like this. In fact, can I go to third person? I don't think it'll let me. No, I can't go to third person. So if we go like this, if you imagine the way we would be holding our gun, it would mean our head and our whole left-hand side of our body is exposed. So if we use this side, less of it is exposed. Now, people know this, and people take advantage of this. And what this often means is that people often move around a map in a anti-clockwise manner. So just be aware of that as well as you're moving around. The next thing is, if you look at the crosshairs on the screen, what you always want to try and do is, even when you're not aimed down sight, even when you're like this, try and have the crosshairs where the potential enemies could be. So let's start again. So let's go back here. So let's say we spawn here, right? And I think, right, I'm going to go towards the right. So as I'm coming out here, I'm thinking about that door there, and there's that door there, and there's that door there, and there's that there. So I just want to, you kind of make a bet, and the bet is generally where you think the enemies are going to be coming from, and that often is where you're going. So we're keeping my crosshairs there. Now, what I could do is, as I come up to this door, I'm going slowly, we could flick a crosshair to there, and then we could flick back to here. And the whole point of this is, if an enemy was running around this corner, it's much faster for me to kind of pull in both triggers to ADS and start shooting at the same time, or just hip fire to take them out, rather than, say, having my crosshairs there. And imagine if someone then appeared in that gap, I would then have to move across and do that. Whereas if my crosshairs are already there, so as I come around here, I know that there's a door to the other house opposite me over there, so I can move my crosshairs over to there like that, and then I know there's also, that's a point there, so we could cover that. And then I also know that there's a that's where snipers can be there. Now, as we move around here, where my people are most likely to be is coming up that side of the house and coming around this corner, or sometimes there. So as we kind of get to here, I'm thinking, okay, so let's aim there, let's aim there, and let's aim there, and then quickly let's get back to this way. Try and hug the flanks. So as I'm coming around here, again, I'm keeping my crosshairs where people could be. Remember, people slide, so we don't want to be tight up against there, we want to be around here. Now, at this point, I can make a decision where I'm going to go. Am I going to push their spawns, like this, and then you'd probably see someone here. Then as I come around the corner, people are going to be over there. Just be aware that if you do this sort of thing, the spawns are going to flip and people are going to be at the other end of the map. And the problem with that is that that can lead to a little bit of chaos on the map, which means that you end up with enemies behind you. And if your team aren't used to that, that can be a problem. So as a beginner player, in something like Team Domination, TDM, there's nothing wrong, and I would highly recommend this actually, is think of your role as anchoring your team to one part of the map. So you could well say push up to somewhere like here and be ready for people coming through there, coming through there, coming through there, and then hold it. And then as you're moving around, what you're doing as well is you're flicking your eye up to the left hand corner looking at the mini-map. Because when someone fires their gun and they haven't got a suppressor on, they will appear on that mini-map, so you can see where enemies are, but also you can see where all of your friendly teammates are. And generally, where your friendly teammates are is where the enemies aren't. And you'll also see the direction they're facing at and who they're firing at. So if all your enemy teammates are kind of more towards that end of the map, one of the things you could do is you could then fall back here, because you know that enemies are going to start spawning here, and simply by being here and looking in this direction you will stop enemies spawning, because generally in Call of Duty the game doesn't let you spawn when an enemy is looking at you. And then you've anchored this spawn point, and it means the other enemies are going to be trapped up here where your friendlies can shoot them. And so you could run around here. Again, we're just keeping that there. There's a little spot there where people like to pop out. As we come here, there's a little spot there where people like to come out. And then we can kind of anchor this. Now, if you're playing Domination on Nuketown, the C flag, I believe, is there. And then you have the B flag is here by this car. And then the A flag is on the other side of there. So if you were playing Domination, one of the things you would probably be doing is you'd be throwing smokes kind of over there and over there, and you'd be putting your trophy system down here. and then you would be kind of defending this sort of position here, and then dying an awful lot. And so that's what I'm thinking as I'm moving around the map. As I'm physically moving, it's all about, where are my crosshairs? Are they where the chances are someone will be moving from? That way, if they come sprinting around that corner, I'm in a position to just be able to pull the triggers. And this is called centering. Whereas if I'm pointing in the wrong direction, I'm less likely to be able to get on target quicker. And you just concentrate on doing that. So if we were going this way, so then we swing round. Okay, so there's a door there, so cover that. There's a garage to my right, cover that. If we're going back this way, so we keep our crosshair there. ADS down there, because people are probably coming out of there. Keep that there. Flick back to there. Into there. Always trying to do this. And this becomes second nature after a while. Flick round to there. Go around to there. Up the stairs, so we want to be aware there's a door there, so we're keeping our crosshairs there. Then there's a door there, keep across that, cover that, cover that. Now, when you're covering windows and doors, try not to stand like this, because you'll probably get shot. You always want to be thinking about covering angles like this, or like this. So you're kind of going backwards and forwards rather than just standing like that. In fact, let's go down here to this doorway here. So again, if I'm here, I don't want to be kind of standing here and doing this. I want to be going like this and covering that angle there. And then flipping over and covering that angle there. Or if we're up here, we want to be sort of covering that angle there. Or like that angle there, and popping in and out, sort of like so. And with Black Ops 6, you can mantle your weapon as well. So when you're near a flat object, vertical or horizontal, if you click in your right stick, we can then lean our gun against it, which means we can't move away, but it means our recoil is incredibly removed. When you're doing things like domination and hardpoint, and this is a classic point here by this car, what you want to be thinking about is, where are the sight lines? So if I'm trying to defend here, where will the enemy be seeing me? So you look at the minimap in the top left hand corner and go, right, okay, so there's enemies to my top left and say to my top right. So they're going to be shooting from there, and they're probably going to be popping out there, or maybe even there and shooting towards me. So you've got to kind of hug the cover. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with getting down onto your belly as well. And remember, with Black Ops 6, we can also, if we're sprinting backwards, we can press and hold jump, and we end up on our back. And for some reason, people don't always see you when you're on your back. So, you know, just think about that. That comes with experience as well, of just dying a lot and watching the kill cam. You know, there's nothing wrong with watching the kill cam of other players, seeing how they killed you, so you can understand that way. So there we go. That's my basic thought about moving around the map. When you get your opportunities, you know, throw your lethals, bounce them around inside rooms, deploy your field upgrades, all that sort of stuff. But hopefully this has given you a couple of things to think about and some things to practice, which we're going to be doing next. So next, we're actually going to jump into a practice bot match. So we can start to play against, I like to think them as live target practice. That sounds a bit wrong, that, doesn't it? But we're going to play against recruit bots. So we can start practicing those movement skills, start practicing centering, so that when we jump into a proper game against real players, we're going to have a little bit more of a clue. We won't get quite as frustrated. So we can go into find a match. We go down to the bottom. We can go to private match like so. And we can say create a private match. And we're going to look at the top right hand corner, and we're going to wait for our name to appear. Now what you might want to start off with this is to do team deathmatch. So there'll be, say, 6 enemy bots, 5 friendly bots, and you on one team. And therefore they're going to be shooting each other, so you can kind of get used to the mini-map that's going on, and there's not quite so much pressure. As you get better, you might want to turn this into a free-for-all situation. So anyway, so let's go into the game setup. Let's choose, let's do Nuketown again, because it's nice and small. There we go. Our game mode, let's do it as team deathmatch. Yeah, we like that. Let's just see what weapons I've got. In fact, we're going to... What you could do, what I forgot to say in the previous part of the video was that you can go in, and the beauty with playing against bots is that everything's unlocked. So you can choose whatever gun you want, you know, to play as, which is very, very useful. Because you can have a bit of fun. And also, I should add at this point as well, there's nothing wrong if you're finding online multiplayer too sweaty and not fun. Just come and play against bots. There's nothing wrong with that as well. So I'm happy with my loadout. So let's add 5 friendly bots to my team. And then team 2, let's add 6 enemy bots. Oh, there we go. Now they're only recruit bots, which is good. And let's jump in. Now, what I want you to think about, what I want you to watch as we're playing this is, especially the mini-map in the top left-hand corner. Look at the mini-map and see the friendlies moving around and see their gunfire. And always remember, the enemies are where the friendlies aren't, but they're probably in the direction that the friendlies are facing. And look for the gaps. Now, when a UAV goes up in the air, then the beauty of that is the fact that you can see enemies. Now, let's just quickly look on the tap map. See all my buddies? They're all running off that way. And then remember, the enemies are coming in the wrong other direction. So what we could do as well, we could lob a grenade and get an easy kill. So let's just move it. So see how much our... Right, let's reload. Let's back off. Okay, so they're pushing that way. You see, the bots are really stupid, but they're easy to kill. We're about to... Now, if you're in a situation like this where you start running out of ammo, just pick up somebody else's gun. Oh, same one. That's a bit boring. Let's push up now. Let's try and force a spawn swap. What's my other weapon? Oh, I've got a pistol. Okay, so now we've forced a spawn swap. So see, all my teammates are spawning at this end now. Let's get. Can we get some more bullets? Right, we got some more bullets. So let's see if we can practice some centering as we push towards the enemy. Ooh. So we know they're going to be coming that way, don't we? Oh, behind me. Now I'm not going to push up. I'm just going to hold this area here. Because I'm not going to force a spawn swap. So if we look at the map, you'll see my teammates are kind of staying towards the left-hand side. And this way we're controlling the map. Bullets again. Right, okay, let's force us. We're almost out of bullets. Let's pick up another gun. Oh, we picked up some ammo from that one. So let's force a swarm. So again. Ooh, too many enemies. Let's give him a grenade. Now, if you're an experienced Call of Duty player and you're still watching this, you'll be going, well, these are recruit bots, of course it's easy. But if you're new to Call of Duty, just the experience of getting into a game and killing players and using the gun and reloading and that sort of thing is vital, I think, because it gives you an opportunity just to enjoy the game and get a taste of that. And then we finally die. So we would make our way through this game and just play it and play it and play it just like that. So that when you come into a real multiplayer game, what you're then going to find is you're going to have an idea of what's going on. You're going to have an idea of what the mini-map looks like. You know, how to reload, how to pick up weapons, how to throw lethals and things like that. And you'll be much more less likely to become frustrated. Now, let me give you another few tips as well. Let's say you're playing a game of domination, or you're playing team death, or any game actually, and your team is getting spanked. So you've been put in with a load of duffers, for example, and they don't seem to know what they're doing, or they keep feeding the enemy score streaks. That's a classic thing that will happen. So they'll keep dying, and the enemies will keep calling in attack choppers, and you're like, ugh. What I do in that situation is I don't quit out. What I'll do is I will really fall back often and just start defending a particular part of the map. And this is very useful for example, for free-for-all. So I'll just pick part of the map, so it might be this bit here, and I just stay here. So my job just becomes defend this part of the map, anchor this part of the map from the enemies, forcing them to spawn somewhere else, and anchoring my teammates. So what it means is my teammates will then spawn around me and head towards the enemy in that direction. That will often give them a little bit more structure, which means that they can then start giving it back to the enemy, or at least you stop dying quite as much. Something that might well happen in domination is that because of the way that your team is playing, you just can't capture the, say, B flag. No matter how much you try, you can't capture that flag over there. And you're throwing yourself onto the flag, you're throwing your smokes, but your teammates aren't helping, so there's not much you can do. What I would suggest in that situation, what you want to do is sometimes you just want to push up, and then what I would do is I would push up and then just start flanking, and then you almost start playing a game of team deathmatch. So we've come up this way. And then instead of going over to the flag over there, we'll come up to this sort of position here and start trying to prevent enemies from feeding onto the flag from here. And do that way. Okay, one last tip before we call it a day, and I'll set you free on the multiplayer servers. Remember, when you fire your gun, say we come around here and we shoot this guy. When you're going to reload, get behind cover and make sure there's nobody else coming first. And then reload. Because your magazine has quite a few bullets in it, especially when you're running extended mag. So there's no need to reload straight away. You've got enough bullets to kill probably 3 enemies in each magazine. So there's nothing wrong with then getting somewhere safe, then reloading, because otherwise you'll get a situation like that where they kill you while you're reloading. So anyway, there we go. We've covered a lot of ground in this video. Apologies it's taken so long, but now I think if you follow some of these basics, when you jump into a proper multiplayer game, maybe you'll be a little bit more ready to have a good time. That's enough from me though. There's loads of other great videos out there from other YouTubers who go into a lot more detail and can teach you a lot more things than I have. But if you've enjoyed this one, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. And of course, I'll see you again soon.